don't believe this. The people are obviously fools. If they see all of this evidence that we have been seeing, and it cannot be faked, it is not a hoax. Earthquakes and volcanoes are not a hoax. End of story. When you see a rapid rise in earthquakes and volcanoes and then sinkholes we've never seen before, we're seeing a double sun, we got crazy weather, and there are at least 50 other reasons why Planet X can be real. It's not something you just write off and say conspiracy theory or something crazy like that. We all have a duty to collect the facts. We have a duty to hold off our conclusion until we know for sure what it is. And play a very conservative game with your own reputation. Don't commit to anything. Just collect the facts until the facts scream Planet X. When you look up in the sky and you see a planet or a group of planets, or a dwarf star in some planets, or you see heavy rocks falling to Earth from this tail of this group of planets and dwarf star, it's pretty safe then to say Planet X is real. But what we have to say until we know it's real is, I'm looking into it. I see a lot of strange things that never happened in my lifetime. We didn't have sinkholes and bridges falling. Bridges are just dropping. What causes that? They're built on solid ground. The ground is moving and the bridges are coming down. And we hear a lot of excuses. Oh, that's because the bridge was old. No, we never had this before. You have buildings that are collapsing. Some are just dropping into a hole, a sinkhole. Cars are in sinkholes. Something weird is happening. You can put your head in the sand and deny it. But the rest of us want to continue to collect the facts if you don't mind. If you've already reached your conclusion, then stop watching Planet X videos. Who needs you? What we need are facts, and we want to collect them. Now, what do you have to do with it? Stop writing to me and telling me what your conclusion is. I'm not interested in your conclusion. I'm interested in the facts. I will do the debunking around here on my account. You do the debunking on your account. I want to look into this. I want to know what the truth is. I don't rely on anybody to do my thinking for me or conduct my analysis. I will do that. And I hope that you say that you will do that. Each of us must do it because our lives depend on it. And even if you discover that there's a Planet X, it's real, the Van Allen belt is going to drop, we're going to get radiated with microwaves here on the planet, and a lot of people are going to die. If that turns out to be the case, you probably won't survive. If you're chicken to die, what choice do you have? You act like we're killing you because we're observing here what's going on, collecting the data. The government seems to be hiding it all from us. They're afraid that their investments are going to fail. We're not going to buy their products and we're going to buy something else instead, something like canned food or dry goods. If they shut off the water, there's no food. Gasoline pumps and diesel pumps work by electricity. We did not develop a backup system. We don't have auxiliary power in the quantities that we need. And so it's going to come down to who bought the food and stored it away. Now, the government wants to scare us because they want that food for themselves. And so they told us that if we stock up more than 7 days of food, we must be a terrorist. No, they are the terrorists. They are the ones who pulled off 9/11 and all the false flags, like the Boston Massacre and this Batman movie theater. They are responsible for all of the major events that we've heard about in our lifetime. And they've gotten away with it because they lied to us. They are behind all of the influenza viruses. I just completed a video about that. It shows that the viruses are man-made. H1N1 is made of human flu, bird flu, and pig flu, and it was a splice job. That's what those who study this say. It was a splice job. They cut and pasted genes in order to make a deadly virus. They're trying to kill us. Can you tell? Look at your food. Look at your water. They're putting chemicals in your food. They're putting fluoride in your water. They're dumbing down your schools. They're spraying the skies with things that attack your immune system, weaken it. barium, nano-sized barium. They're causing Alzheimer's disease with nano-sized aluminum. It's in the form of aluminum oxide. They're spraying us with strontium. What for? There isn't any sane reason why. They tried to kill 2 billion people with H1N1 and H5N1. These are two man-made viruses. H1N1 has 3 parents from 2 different continents. More recently, they tried to kill us with Ebola virus. Now, do you think a government like that is going to tell us the truth about Planet X? Don't count on it. Okay, so we just finished the quote, which says that Earth is going to tilt, many lands will disappear beneath the boiling seas, and some will rise from their watery resting places. Among the latter will be the island continent of Atlantis, a land which never completed its evolution and will return to do so. Next paragraph. As to the time of these events, Helio Arcanophos said, within most of your lifetimes, for your children will rule Atlantis. If Atlantis pops up in the ocean, I don't think anybody should rule it. It should be one nation where the people are free. Free from the controls of the Nazis and the governments. We don't want a central bank there. We don't even want money. We want everyone to live and work and get what they need to work. If they need paintbrushes and pens and computers and farming tools, everybody gets what they need in order to work, and nobody has to pay rent, which moves up the conveyor belt to the top of the pyramid, where those who own everything pile your money, your paltry sum, on top of hundreds of trillions of dollars they already amassed by taking it from us through oil. You got to pay $20 a week for gasoline. We don't want that kind of society in the future. We don't want a handful of people to live extremely well and be insane while the rest of us are barely making it, and some of us don't even have enough food or water, can't get an education. This is nonsense. This is not the way leaders run a planet. These aren't leaders. They're crooks. They're liars. They're thieves. Next paragraph. More about Atlantis comes through British medium Eileen Garrett. Perhaps the greatest medium of the century. He forgot to say which century. I guess it would be the 20th century. She became well known in America as the founder of the Parapsychology Foundation and the most tested medium of modern times. An even more illustrious questioner at a seance was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a writer. He created Sherlock Holmes, and in his later years, a celebrated proponent of spiritualism. Sitting in at the seance was Dr. Abraham Wallace, an expert on metaphysics. Mrs. Garrett was channeling her 12th century Persian entity, Abdul Latif, who came through primarily to assist in healing. The seance was published in the book Health in 1928 by R.H. Sanders, a physician who consulted with Abdul Latif about his patients. Now that's very interesting. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle asks, quote, "Can you give me any approximate date for the sinking of Atlantis?" unquote. Abdul Latif says, quote, "It is not really true to say that the Atlantean people could not make records. Many of these records will one day be found by cataclysmic eruptions that caused the gradual disappearance of land." And then in brackets, Casey also said that there were 3 destructions of Atlantis. Well, you know, when you have an interjection like that, you should give the source, the date, or the exact quote, and it looks more credible that way. All right, I don't see any closed quote again. Somebody is very careless here with the closed quotes. And the next paragraph is another quote. It says, "There are great monuments, tombs to be opened. There will be cataclysms that will bring up to you from the bottom of the sea that which I swear in the name of Almighty God to be true," unquote. Dr. Abraham Wallace said, quote, "I was told that in the early days they had airships, and they drove their airships by means of etheric energy," unquote. And Abdul, the Persian, Abdul Latif, said, there's no starting quote, I presume it's after the colon, I do not say that they had airships, but they had means of flying. They also had means of producing light from the etheric force, which is equivalent today to the electric energy. Dr. Abraham Wallace then says, quote, I understand that the utilization of that etheric energy for evil purposes was the cause of the first catastrophe in Atlantis, and that today on the continent there are some people who have attained to a certain knowledge of that, and if they utilize it as they propose to do, there will be a tremendous catastrophe, end quote. And Abdul Latif says, quote, I assure you of this, that you are quite right in what you hear of the possibility of cataclysmic catastrophe. As soon as a nation, be it great or small, attains a certain degree of knowledge, that knowledge is very often a two-edged sword in the hands of the ignorant, unquote. Next paragraph. A sobering prophecy, one that reminds us that Germany had initiated work on the atomic bomb, though it was the Americans who first developed the energy capable of world destruction. Casey also said that the destruction of Atlantis was caused by the misuse of powerful energies. Abdul Latif agrees with Casey, the Dresden Pythia, and Chiro in prophesying a rediscovery of Atlantean ruins as well as the familiar catastrophe. Well, not far from Cuba, they already discovered underwater many artifacts, including a machine that's been running for 2,000 years. And I don't know how it runs, but I expect them to reverse engineer it and weaponize it, because that's what they do with everything they get their hands on. They shoot down alien ships who come here for scientific study. They're not expecting to be shot down. The Russians also shoot them down. And then they try to back engineer them. And sometimes an accident causes an explosion. One happened in Area 51 and it killed about 12 scientists. Next paragraph. In the attic of the Society for Psychical Research in London, back in the days when they were housed at Adam and Eve Mews, old files have been discovered that contain a prophecy by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Conan Doyle had been channeling communication from his guide Phineas since 1923 and put together a consensus prophecy of material he had received from other mediums in England and America. Shortly before his death in 1930, he wrote a letter published July 20th, 1930 in London Sunday Express, which summarized the channeled prophecies. Ooh, this is good. Quote, if we state the course of events as outlined in these various documents and check them with our information, the result is overwhelming. It would entail a period of terrific natural convulsions during which a large portion of the human race would perish. Earthquakes of great severity, enormous tidal waves would seem to be the agents. There is mention of war, but that would appear to be only in the early stages and to be, in some way, the signal for the crisis. I think there is an end quote that he should have put there, and it's not there. Then he starts a quote, the following details may be gathered. And I don't understand why there's a quote there. Then there's another quote starting the next sentence, and there is no end quote there either, that the crisis will come in an instant. A start quote and no end quote, that the general destruction and utter dislocation of civilized life will be beyond belief. And another one, same thing, a quote starting the sentence and none to close it out. That there will be a short period of utter chaos followed by some reconstruction. And the same pattern here, no end quote. Quote, that the total period of the upheavals will be roughly 3 years. Quote, that the chief centers of disturbance will be the Eastern Mediterranean basin, where not less than 5 countries will entirely disappear. Eastern Mediterranean basin. Now, would that be Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, Libya? Eastern Mediterranean basin. I think you would have to go south because north it's all mountains. Italy is mountainous. Southern France is mountainous. Southern Spain is mountainous. Then there's another quote, and this one has an end quote. It says, also the Atlantic, where there will be a rise of land, which will be a cause of those waves, which will bring about great disasters upon the Americas, the Irish, and the Western European shore, involving all the low-lying British coasts. There are indicated further great upheavals in the southern Pacific and in the Japanese region. Well, people from England are often asking me, am I safe? And from what I understand, the highlands are safer than the lowlands, but that does not account for sinking. These prophets are saying that England will sink and much of northern Europe will be underwater. It's a pity because there are a lot of great people, very nice people in those areas. I'm very sad about that. But I'll be stuck here in the desert with no water, no food. There's water in the spa, but I think someone will kill me for it so they can flush their toilet, one of the neighbors here. Next paragraph. As for the time of these events, Conan Doyle felt that they were very close, but also said that mankind could be saved by returning to spiritual values, a sentiment also expressed by Casey. Well, the aliens embrace this idea also that if we straighten up and fly right, that the pole shift doesn't have to take place, and I don't understand how astronomy could have anything to do with spirituality. That if the pole shift and the tsunamis are caused by a large, massive object passing nearby, that no matter how spiritual you are, you're going to die. We are seeing unprecedented numbers of earthquakes and volcanoes.